evening and Shavua Tov. Can you all hear me?
Don, can you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me? Welcome to our annual Malava Malka, which in previous years has always been a big success. So we want really, first of all, to thank you all to come and help our EMUNAH activities. First of all, I would like particularly to thank all the ladies of the committee, not only for tonight, but the whole year, the fantastic work that they are doing. I would like to call upon Mrs. Rini Becker just to tell us about our activities in EMUNAH. All the evening has been sponsored. That means that any money you give will all go to EMUNAH.
Shavua Tov, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me to come. As the chairman, one of the chairmen of EMUNAH Jerusalem, it's always a pleasure to go along and see what's going on in all our groups in Jerusalem. And we're very proud of Bayit VeGan, your group, because it goes on and on and on and never disappoints us with special events. And I think Gigit and all your committee are very special people, just constantly providing us with all our needs. Life in the EMUNAH organization can never be described as boring. There are shiurim, lectures, classes, bet midrash, fundraising activities, clothes and second-hand goods sales, quizzes, concerts, dinners, trips to locally, to Eilat, the Dead Sea, Israeli dancing. All these are going on constantly for women and also some for men. We in Jerusalem, the largest EMUNAH sniff in the country, have English and Hebrew-speaking chapters, and we have an office that has a competent staff that deals with all the official matters and keeps us connected to the main office in Bnei Brak. But most of the activities, like yourselves, are run by volunteers. But that's only a very small part of the work of EMUNAH. Our place in the social welfare and educational services of the country is most influential. We're active in Klita and Aliyah, having assisted in the absorption of so many Russians and Ethiopian Olim over the years, and today we are still there for them to continue with the much needed help that so many people need. We have 8,700 children in our care in 135 daycare centers. We have over 2,800 pupils in our schools and children's homes around the country. We have a third-level college offering a B.Ed in graphics, fine arts and drama, 15 batei midrash for women, 8 family counseling centers, the largest one being in Yerushalayim, which unfortunately there's a growing need for family counseling. We have over 3,000 employees and 2,800 Banot Leumi. All this helping to keep our big organization running, and an incredible budget of 400 million shekel to cover. We cater in our daycare centers for children, not all, by any means all from religious homes whose hard-working parents must both work in order to afford to raise a family. And in these daycare centers all over the country, children are receiving an excellent religious Zionist education. We hope that these are the children who are going forward in life and will be a positive influence on our society and build us a wonderful Israel. The challenges are great, though, and growing. Nowadays, the children in our care, in our 5 children's home, are coming from unbelievably horrendous backgrounds, more so than ever before. Drug problems, murders, physical violence by parents, incest, sudden death of parents are just a few of the reasons why a child must be removed, sometimes suddenly, from his family and placed in care. And for this reason, we also have opened emergency shelters in our children's centers throughout the country, even receiving children and babies in the middle of the night, in very short notice. We have a center in the south called Neve Landi, which is very special in that it caters for 75 boys between the ages of 6 and 17. They're most often placed with us in our care after being hospitalized with psychiatric problems because of the extreme problems that they are facing in life. There probably isn't one child who isn't on some form of psychiatric drug. And yet, when you see them, and I do strongly suggest that you will go and see one of these homes once at least, they're lively, happy children benefiting from all the therapies and learning experiences that EMUNAH and the money that you raise, amongst others, provides. And they are able to go and have regular schooling on the level suited to them. Some of these children have never even been to school before they came to us. And they enjoy bike riding, horse riding, animal therapy, and all the usual things children enjoy. And what are your children and your grandchildren, great-grandchildren? What do they enjoy? A big hug, a big smile. And that's one of the main things that we are giving our children in our care, this love which they are so sorely missing. Some of the children in Neve Michael, which is another one of our homes in Pardes Chana, have the benefit of a connection with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. They're part of Sulamot, a group of unprivileged children who are learning a musical instrument and play together with the members of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. Recently, Zubin Mehta conducted an event with these children, and one of our boys, age 13, who's learnt clarinet, played a solo for this orchestra, with this orchestra. Maybe some of you who were at the EMUNAH dinner, I don't know if anybody here was there, just the recent EMUNAH Jerusalem dinner, but we were entertained by this boy who confidently got up, stood in front of 250 people and played Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalom, most beautifully on his clarinet. And that's all because we've given him the confidence in our home to do this. His home couldn't give him this. And advance in the sphere of our care in the children's centres to help to involve the parents. However bad we consider the parents to be, they're still their parents. And unless the child has been taken away from the parents by court and by court order and not allowed to have contact with them, our social workers and psychologists on the staff work together with the parents, making every effort to educate them in proper parenting skills and involve them in activities with the children, and thus build up a relationship which in many cases never even existed before. The sky is the limit to the success of a child thanks to the warm, happy atmosphere and correct approach that we give them in our homes. And we just hope that they will finish their education through us, find a suitable career, and have a happy married life. And the hope is that history will not repeat itself in the next generation as has happened in so much in the past. And now for the future. Whereas we especially, the EMUNAH English speakers amongst us, have always been satisfied working in the sphere of fundraising for the children, enjoying other activities that were mentioned, and on the whole didn't necessarily feel the need to apply ourselves to other issues through EMUNAH, we're realizing the younger generation wants something different. We need to look forward. There's a great deal of concern about our continuity, and we're very conscious of this, especially in Yerushalayim. We need the younger generation to continue the work of EMUNAH in modern terms. We're reaching out to the needs of the younger woman. Yeah, I can see one younger woman here. In Jerusalem and Ma'ale Adumim, we have 3 groups of young women getting on their feet, and we hope that's going to be part of our future leadership. We've started guidance groups for women who run small businesses from home, groups for preparing young couples for their future lives together, and leadership courses to help to find ways to achieve the positive empowerment of women and their influence on society at large. In the public sphere, EMUNAH is making its presence felt with its involvement in women and family issues in the Knesset, within the confines of halakha, including laws passed on matters of yagunot, giyur, mashgichei kashrut, and even grandparenting rights. You may ask, what's grandparenting rights? That's whether, when there's troubles in the family and the children are separated, can the grandparents come and meet with their grandchildren? This is something having to be fought for. Recently, EMUNAH received the Israel Prize for the excellence of our work, and yet we can't sit down and say there's nothing else to do. There is so much to do. and we look forward to a better future for our country, and we hope that we're contributing to this for the involvement of EMUNAH's works and activity.
This is my son, and he has a knack if you ever need lamps.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
We live in Givatzev.
You're young.
We are with the next generation.
Yes, you are. Together with
You don't have to take a picture of me, please. I'm allergic. Good evening and Shavuot Tov, ladies and gentlemen. I hope so far, I'm sure you've been having a very good time. And you will continue to have a good time because we have a very special speaker. Rabbi Eddie Jackson, as you read. He was born in Cork, Ireland, and he worked for many years in United Synagogue shuls. One was Kenton, one was Kingston-on-Thames, and he worked for 19 years in his last shul in Hampstead Gardens suburb. Hampstead, sorry. I've been out of England for too many years. I was 9 when I left. Okay? He took early retirement and came with his wife on Aliyah in 1999. He has 3 daughters and a son, all married, and all of them are married and in Israel, and all the grandchildren are in Israel. That's a big thing to be able to say. Rabbi Jackson was a prison chaplain in 2 big prisons in London, and he will tell us about his experiences. בבקשה.
Shavuot Tov, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I must say to see so many people, not from my prisons, but from other my communities, London in general, and even from Cork, is a great pleasure. Whenever I come to the center of Mishpatim, I always think of the first pasuk, one of the first pasukim about the Eved Ivri, because it had a big influence on me. When in the early days, when one was in Bnei Akiva, one heard this Devar Torah very quickly, very short, but quite pungent. And it applies to all parts of life. It says, Ivim Omar Ha'eved, Ahavti et Adoni, et Ishti, Miet Bonai, Lo Eitzei Chovshi. The Eved says he's making mistakes, he's making his excuses. I don't want to go out because I love my wife, my children, my master. But at the end of the sentence, Lo Eitzei Chovshi. I always remember, he says this is a lesson for life. Sof sof. The bottom line is Lo Eitzei Chovshi. Forget, you start with excuses, but in the end, it's your decision and it's your ratzon, whatever you do in life. It's either, whatever excuses you want to make, in the end it's either eitzei or lo rotzeh latzeit, lo eitzei. But that is just a first thought, and now I want to get on to my subject. Look, I was a prison chaplain in London for about 10, 15 years, and when you take on a position in London within the United Synagogue, and the United Synagogue in London, in England, is an Orthodox organization, because in America I know it's not, it's a conservative organization. you've got to take on a responsibility apart from your own community. At least this was in my time. So you had to do either hospital visiting, university work, or one option was prison chaplain. I was offered the prison chaplain a number of times and always refused. But once they were a bit desperate, and they said, please, please, just take it on for a couple of weeks while we find somebody. And you can imagine, I ended up for 15 years doing prison chaplaincy. And I must say, the interesting thing is that I enjoy doing it in the end, because I wouldn't have kept on doing it otherwise. It's a it was something different and very interesting, and something which you can find rewarding as well, as long as you can make sure to yourself, and this is very important, that these people are in prison for whatever they've done, but it's not for you to judge them. You're there to help them as a chaplain. You can guide them, you can talk to them, you can try to put them on the right way, but if you want to get anywhere with them, you've got to accept them for what they are. And that's something, a lesson for life. That's very important. And so I started off in Wandsworth Prison, which is a major prison in London. And it's a major prison in that all prisoners who are sentenced have got to go to one of the big prisons first before they get allocated to a prison suitable for their offences. And this can be very, very difficult, because you can get somebody in for an offence which is a white-collar offence in a cell with somebody who has committed a very, very serious crime. For those first few weeks before they get allocated, they're mixed together. So as a prison chaplain, that was one aspect one had to deal with at the very beginning. But I like to talk about the challenges of chaplaincy in prison, to say that you've got to ask yourself the two questions to be asked and answered. Number one, what is Judaism? And number two, who is a Jew? That covers about everything that you've got to do. I used to go into Wandsworth Prison every Tuesday and gather together the Jewish prisoners and take them to the shul. Wandsworth Prison has a shul, a very nice shul. All prisons in England, which were built originally about 150 years ago, which was when they were built, it was important, and it was necessary, and it was regulation that a synagogue was put into the shul, into the prison. So at Wandsworth, Wormwood Scrubs, Pentonville, and all the old prisons. Why? Because it says in the Constitution that prisoners are entitled to have freedom of worship. They've got to have opportunities to worship for their religion. And there always was a church, and 150 years ago, the only other denomination were the Jews. There was nobody else. So therefore they have to put in a church, they also have to put in a shul. Nowadays, of course, it's quite different. They put in a church, but they don't put in anything else. They put in one room, which everybody's got to use. Non-denominational. Now, but we had a very nice shul, and we also had a kitchen. Yeah? It's very interesting about, things have changed slightly different now, but according what is Judaism? As far as Judaism is concerned, you've got to have somewhere to pray, and there are Jewish dietary laws. If you think of 150 years ago, the people who ran the United Synagogue, well, they had to decide what was demanded, what was important, what was absolutely important in terms of kashrut. I don't know exactly who they were or what their experience was, but they probably did it in their request in terms of what their own practices might have been. So therefore, they reckoned that a Jew during the year could have a vegetarian diet, and they would not be forced to eat pig, but they could have a vegetarian meal. But they knew that when it came to Pesach, that was different. So the kitchen was put next to the shul, particularly for Pesach, where they had their own facilities, given brand new kalim to look after themselves. Of course, it depended on the individual prisoners who were there at the time as to how careful they were, but that was what their provision was. So for the whole week of Pesach, they could meet in the shul and eat in the shul. Of course now, I'm talking about 30 years ago, now of course they just send in harmonious meals. But that is how it was. The shul was there, and the kitchen was there, and that was Judaism. Were prisoners allowed to daven? Of course they were allowed to daven. I remember once, what about tefillin? Now tefillin is always a problem, depending on the character, the category of the prisoner. Tefillin have got to be put on under supervision, because they reckon that tefillin are red straps, and therefore a prisoner could cause damage to himself or to somebody else with his straps. So they usually had to go to the warder's office in order to daven in there. And I remember once came in one day, and somebody said they were allowed. I had put in a request for him to put on his film, but he said, yeah, but he said, they've taken away my tzitzis. I said, they've taken away your tzitzis? He said, why? So I went and asked the governors. I said, well, they reckon this was not a normal, told him that when he undressed or put on, changed his clothes, they'd never seen a pair of tzitzis before. It wasn't regulation, never seen it before, so why should he have to wear it? So I said to them, I was standing there literally in the middle of the prison. I said, no, I can assure you this man is entitled to wear his tzitzis, because it's regulation for Orthodox Jews. He still looked a bit puzzled at me. And at the end, what I did in fact was, I took out there and then, took out my Arba Campos and showed him. Well, he says, that's all right then, Rabbi. Who is a Jew? Now, this is very interesting. I don't know, those of you who were in the army, or certainly in the British Army, or I'm sure in the American Army as well, when you came and joined the army, they asked you what your religion was. Whatever you said was what they put down. If you said you're a Christian, put down Christian, C.of.E., Catholic, Jew, that's what they put down. So exactly it is the same in prison. If somebody comes into prison, say, what's your religion? And they say, whatever they put down, whatever they say, they put down. And as far as the prison is concerned, that's what they are. That, of course, does provide problems for the chaplain. Now, when I arrived, there were a number of people. Tuesday morning, I got them all together, and we had about 15 at the time, and I assumed that they were all Jews. Found out later that in fact they weren't all Jews. And you ask a chap, why did you put down Jew? Well, he said, number one, he had a Jewish friend. And number two, he didn't have to work on Shabbos, that was one of the things. And number three, the rabbi might bring in some special food for him for festivals. So he put down Jew. I remember once, when I went into the prison on the Tuesday morning, I'd look at my list to see who had come in. And there's a chap called F.C. Liverpool. FC Liverpool, and he said it was a Jew. Don't. So I went, if he requests to see the rabbi, you've got to see him. So I went to see him in his cell, and I see there standing in front of me a huge, should excuse me, black man, very tall. And so I said to him, "You're Mr. Liverpool?" He said, "Yes, sir." So I said, "Well, I'm the rabbi. Very pleased to meet you." I said, "And you're Jewish?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Was your mother Jewish?" "Yes, sir." I said, "Did you have a bar mitzvah?" He says, "What?" Now, the thing is that I can, in fact, decide not to accept him as a Jew, because I've got a problem. I've got a problem. Let me tell you about Dominic. He was a problem. As I was driving to prison one day, some of you, London used to, all those years ago, there was a radio phone-in program with a chap called Brian Hayes. Anyway, LBC. So they're all phoning in, there's only one subject. The subject has taken over the whole hour's program. What is it? A fellow has been sent in to prison, has been sentenced for impersonating a doctor. Impersonating a doctor. And he's been given, 3 or 5 years. His name is Dominic Bint. And I'm listening to all this very interesting discussion on the phone. Finally, this fellow, can you imagine, and it happens, still happens, believe me. This fellow used to go in, he must have known, he read a few books on medicine. He went into Hammersmith Hospital every day, put on a white coat and had a stethoscope and walked around, and everybody thought he was a doctor. And everybody is phoning up to tell the presenter the various experiences that they had with this fellow. Everybody knows him. And in fact, one woman phoned up and she said, "I don't care what anybody else says, he saved my life." So they said, "Well, how is it he saved?" "Well," he said, "they were trying to put in intravenous thing, and nobody could do it except him. He was the only one who could do it." So anyhow, I get into prison. Now, Dominic Bint doesn't sound Jewish, does it? But I look at my list, and to my Tzoras, Dominic Bint is Jewish. He said he's Jewish. Now again, once he says he's Jewish, I must go to see him. As I say, in the end, if I want to say that I don't accept him, that is my right. So I said, it's very interesting. It was a really very bad psychiatric case. In fact, this fellow, he spent, I think, about the first 3 weeks, in fact, crying, never stopped crying. It was very sad. So I talked to him and I said, "Look," I said, "you put down Jewish. Are you Jewish?" No, he said his girlfriend was Jewish. His girlfriend was Jewish. He knew a lot of Jewish people, and that's why he put down Jewish. So anyway, my immediate reaction was, in fact, to him, was to say, "Look, I'm not coming to see you again. You're not Jewish." But he pleaded with me to come and see him. He was in the hospital. So I said, "Right, I'll come and see you." So the thing was that, of course, he is still registered, as far as the prison is concerned, as a Jew. So I went to visit him for a number of weeks, and finally I came into the hospital one day, and I said, "Where's Bint?" "No," he says, "he's in hospital." So what happened to him? He said, well, he tried to commit suicide last night and almost succeeded. And apart from the fact that I was sad because I'd built up some sort of relationship with this fellow, but then I had to go to his file. Because then I had to put down on his file, this man says he's Jewish, but the rabbi does not accept that status. Because if he didn't have any family, if he had no next of kin, the Jewish community would be responsible for his burial. So, that's Dominic Bint. Now, again, to say, and it's very, one of the chaps, this FC Liverpool, who was black African, a lot of the Africans said that they're Jewish. They put it because they regard themselves as the line of Judah. The fact that they might be Christians is neither here nor there. Christianity came from Judaism, and the line of Judah, they all love Israel, and they're Jews. And many of them put that down Jewish. And I had a problem with another chap, a black chap who lived in London, who maintained that he had converted to Judaism. Not only was a member, and he knew quite a bit. So I went to see him, and I started seeing him on a regular basis, but I knew that he wasn't Jewish. And one day I had a big overload of people to see, and I said, look, I won't be able to come in. He reported me to the race relations command. So in the end, I said, I'll go and see him again. So I went to see him again. Now what is interesting is living in Israel, we appreciate this. What's the other side of the coin? The other side of the coin is this. One day I came into the prison, and we were having our little service, because I used to do a little children's service with them. I told them a bit of the Sedra story, said the Shema, the Down Olam we sang, and a few other bits and pieces. And a fellow came up to me at the end of the service and said, you know, Rabbi, he said, there's another Jew here, an Israeli. I said, is there? He said, he didn't, when he came in, he didn't say that he was Jewish, because he's not registered as a Jew. I said, where is he? So he told me where his cell was, and I went to visit him. I went over to the cell, and I knocked on the cell door. I opened the cell, and there he is. I said, Shalom, I said, Ata Yehudi, Bavadai. I said, you're in Israel, Bavadai. I said, do you want to come to the cell? We have a little, sure, Bavadai. Lama lo. So I said, why didn't you, when you came in, when they asked you what your religion was, why didn't you say Jewish? No, you know what he said? Well, they asked me if I was religious. I said, no. they didn't. He heard religious. Interesting. Instead of religion, he said religious. No, he's not religious. So he was there for weeks before we discovered him. And of course, he was my chief rabbi. He was the promised of the lot of them, the non-religious Israeli. So I've had some very interesting experiences, very interesting people. About a long time before I came on Aliyah, I walked down the street of Herzl Street in Netanya with my brother-in-law. Some of you might know, and he's great, but he knows things. He knows people. Anyway, I won't describe him anymore. He's a lovely fellow, but he's into things. Lovely. And we're walking down the street in Herzl, and all of a sudden somebody shouts out, Rabbi! So I'm looking around, and suddenly two fellows come down, run down and greet me, throw their arms around me, and my brother is very impressed. My brother-in-law is very impressed. He said, my goodness, he says, if you come to live in Netanya, you'll become the mayor, at least in 6 weeks you'll be the mayor. He says, why? Well, the name of this fellow was Felix Abutbul. You've heard of Felix Abutbul?
He's murdered.
Yeah, Alav Shalom. Well, Felix Abutbul was in a group of 3 people. A fellow called Barak, I think his name was his German name was something different, and a doctor, a Russian doctor, who were the centerpiece of a famous story. The famous story was that I don't know what the circumstances of the relationship between Israel and Nigeria at the time, and nobody will know exactly why, who put them up to it, but there was a Nigerian diplomat walking down Kensington High Street one day, and he was suddenly taken over by 3 men. He was anesthetized and put into a tea chest in order to be sent back to Nigeria. And the tea chest was taken and placed on the tarmac of Stansted Airport, ready to go back to Nigeria. Except that somebody, unfortunately for them, wondered what this tea chest was doing on the tarmac of Stansted Airport, opened the tea chest and found this fellow there anesthetized. And it was, in fact, the Netanya Mafia who had done it. Whether they'd done it on their own back or nobody will know, but I had them in prison, Felix Abutbul, together with his barak and this other anesthetist, who is still an anesthetist today. And it was a Russian who had very, very recently come from Russia at the time. And they got 12, 10, and 8 years. I mean, they were high prison, grade prisoners. But obviously I went to see them every week. And I built up a relationship with them, to the extent that one day I said, I won't be here next week, I said, because I'm going for a wedding to Canada. So Butbul said, where are you going to? I said, I'm going to Montreal. Oh, he said, I've got a brother there who's a kosher butcher, will you phone him for me? So, that was one group of people that, and I was there. In those days you were not able, they didn't have any opportunities. Today you can get a certain allowance to make phone calls, prisoners in all prisons. There they couldn't. At that time, because I'm talking about the early 80s, they couldn't. And I was their main contact. I used to speak to the families quite often with, be careful what you said, but I was there to say that they were okay. So there you are, built up a relationship with them. Another case, I did a get in prison. I didn't do it, but I arranged for a get. Somebody in prison, a from fellow, who was in prison for offences, unfortunately, Rahman al-Islam, and shouldn't talk about it, but sexual offences against his wife's children. He married a second time. I think she married a second time. And he was in prison, and he was in a section called, forget what the number, a number in which they keep sexual offenders and also those who give, what's the word? They rat on their fellow prisoners. Informers, that's the word. So, I was once asked, was I ever frightened to be when I went to prison? And there was only one occasion when I was frightened, and this was it. Because I had to arrange this get. This was Pentonville prison, another prison in London. And it was meant to take place I phoned the governor and I said, can I do this? He said, if you take responsibility, you can do it. Because I had to bring about 12 people in. There was the sofa, Adim, there was a Shaliach, and a few others. And actually the wife did come. She didn't have to come. Originally she wasn't going to be there. Because all I needed was what had to be done was a Mesirat Haget. In other words, it was a Tzivui Habal actually. Although they did the whole thing originally, she wasn't going to be there, but she did turn up. So I had all those people there. I don't know whether any of you remember Diane Fisher as a Ron of the Broker, but he was there. And, most of you are from England, are you? Some of them. Those of you who know, I remember he was waiting for me. I told him to wait outside the prison at 3 o'clock, and I went. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "I've just got to go and get a key," because I was allowed to wear a key. I could go anywhere, almost. So I went to get a key, and as I came to pick them up, I had the key in my hand. He says, "Oh, the door's the schlüssel." Says, "Du hast the Schlüssel?" What? He was very impressed. So we did, in fact, but coming back to was I frightened? This fellow was in this section for informers and sexual offenders, sex offenders. And it was in a separate part, away from everywhere else. But I had to go in there to collect him. And as the word got round that I was going in to collect into this section, the whole of the rest of the prison gathered round outside, because they knew somebody was going to come out. And you know what? The ethics of criminals is, you can be a murderer, but you can't be a sex offender, and you can't be an informer. And the only time I was really frightened was that when I came out, together with this fellow, the whole of the rest of the prison, hundreds of them, were there shouting and spitting and trying to attack him. And I just, the warders helped me to protect him, and we took him to the shul, and in fact he did give the get. There was a Masir as a get. Let me tell you that on one occasion, had a lady who was the chairman of the visitation committee for the synagogue who wanted, it was Joy Conway actually, if anybody knows her, she wanted to visit. That's right, yeah, she's now in Bet Shemesh at the moment. And they're on no, she hasn't moved into Shoresh yet. I've got later news. No, she's in Bet Shemesh with her daughter at the moment. Okay. But she was the chairman of that, and she wanted to go around the prison, so I took her around the prison. Now the only thing is that, if there's an emergency in prison, suddenly the alarm bell goes, and they have, for some reason or other, the procedure is that everybody has got to just go into the nearest room and lock the door. So there I was for 25 minutes with Joy Conway in this locked door. Can you imagine? I'm so confessing it. I've confessed it on Yom Kippur a number of times. But I didn't have any choice. I just couldn't help it. Kodesh Baruch Hu, I said I couldn't help it. So there I was. And the final story that I want to tell you is this. How am I doing for time? Well, there's a final story. Pardon? I'm finishing off in a minute now, because this is a beautiful story as well. Apart from the Abutbuls, the mafia, the three Netanya mafia members, who made me very famous, and you know, it's interesting. Somebody said to me the other day, not long ago, there's a deli in Netanya. It was called Shirley's Deli. Almost all the restaurants, the mafia Baruch Hashem there has really been defeated. But recently, up to recently, almost all the restaurants on Nizza, they've all been burned down at one time or other. There's always been, and other places as well. But somebody said to me, I know Shirley's, Shirley's will never get burned down. So I said, well, how do you know that? He said, because then Yoshi, you're a friend of ours, and they wouldn't burn down a friend of yours. So I wasn't sure whether to take that as a compliment or not. So we've dealt with the matter of Netanya mafia. Let me tell you about the Betsad case. Also in there during the time when I was the chaplain in Wandsworth, were the people who tried to kill Shlomo Aronov. Agov, beg your pardon, Agov, the Israel ambassador, who was shot outside the Dorchester Hotel one day and never recovered. And these Arab were in that prison, and not only that, there was also some Israeli prisoners there at that time, as there usually were. Once I had Israeli prisoners They tried to burgle the jewelry shop on Golders Green. What was it called? Can't remember. Who? No. One of the big chains. No. Anyway, and these three. Can you imagine? Three brothers. Three brothers came and tried to get into this jewelry shop in Golders Green. But as soon as they tried to break in, immediately the alarm went into the police. And so they heard the alarm, and they knew that they had no chance of doing anything. So what did they do? Like good Israelis, they went into the kitchen and put on the kettle and had a cup of coffee until they waited for the police to come. But of course, they got a very heavy sentence for that, and they were crying to me because they said, "Look, we didn't take anything. We didn't." The trouble is that when they went in, they had toy guns. So once you have a weapon or anything that looked like a weapon, that became a very, very serious offense, although they got nothing. And anyway, they were inside, and one day I told them that I wouldn't be in there, I'm going to Israel. "Oh, you're going to Israel? Will I contact their parents?" So I did. I contacted their parents. And the mother, they said they'd like to come and see me. The father drove a little Tanuga van. So we had a flat in the Tangi at the time, long before we became before this flat, years ago. So on this evening, this Tanuga van drives up, and they come out, and they come up, and it was again really pathetic. And they said they've got some stuff for me to take back for them. So what do you mean stuff? No, he says some food. They really thought they were in the army, you know. They said, you know, they got food to take in there. So I said, no, I really can't take food. And that they had a van loaded with food for me to take back, to give to their boys. 3 brothers, 3 sons. Can you imagine, 3 sons? In the end, I did them a big favor. She said, please just take the Turkish copy. So the Turkish copy I took, and I took it in for Yom Tov. The last one that I want to tell you was this. The Argov killers, or the Argov almost killers, they were Israelis in at the same time. And one day when I seen the Israelis said, a couple of them came up to me and said, you know, Rabbi, it's very, very ridiculous here, he said. He said, where the Israelis and the Arabs were they put them in the same block, just 1 floor up from the other. And they've spent the whole time trying to get at each other. I said, that is nonsensical, ridiculous. So I went to the governor, one of the lower governors. I said, you know, can't it move them around? Oh, Rabbi, that's a very good idea. I said, bro, move one. He said, of course we will. We didn't realize. And they could have killed each other. So anyway, the following week I was coming, when I came to prison on that Tuesday, it did happen on occasions that some of my colleagues would phone me up if they happened to have some of their congregants in there, and to ask whether I would bring them in. That was the easiest way of doing it. So I said, yes, of course I will. So I usually meet them outside the prison and take them in. On this occasion, I can tell you who the rabbi was. The rabbi was Rabbi Sudak, the old Rabbi Sudak, the Chabad, the Lubavitcher. He said he's got somebody in there with a mind. Now you know, I tell people, I don't particularly look like a rabbi. Rabbi Sudak does look like a rabbi. He's got his long coat and he's got a beard down to his... I met him outside the prison, And I took him right through the prison to where the office where we had to make arrangements for him to see his chap. And as I went into the office, the fellow who I'd spoken to last week about separating the Arabs and the Jews is there sitting with using his pen, taking some notes and not seeing them. Suddenly he looks up and says, hello, Rabbi. And he looks straight through me at Rabbi Sudak and he says, he says, I see you brought your hitman with you. So there, that's really, it's been some of these stories, and I tell you, there's a Hakoras Taub stories, which I received without amazing Hakoras Taub stories, which one can tell if one had time, but I'm not going to do it now. It's a different story. It's a different thing. Thank you for listening. You've been very good, and I think it's time that we should stop. Thank you.
Hold on. First of all, thank you very, very much. It was certainly a fascinating talk. We've got 3 raffle prizes, yes, and we'd be grateful if you could draw the numbers, please. And also, can we just present you with a little something?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very, very much. Thank you. Do you have your tickets ready? The first prize is a beautiful basket of fruit made by Delia and Lorna.
Number 58.
58. Who's got it? Oh, very, very good. Fine. This. Another one. Oh, right. She's donating. Oh, wait.
Not 59 and all, okay.
We'll check them. It wasn't mixed properly.
No. Number 20.
20. Who's 20? Come on. Somebody must have it.
Should I?
You didn't buy this one.
20. Nobody?
Last year. Wanted to give a chance to other people.
Take out another one.
Not doing very well, am I?
Oh, here we've got 20.
Got 20?
20, fine. The second prize is a voucher from our local baker Nugatin for 2 lovely chalot for Shabbos. What number is that?
Number 18.
18. Oh, 18. That's the voucher from Nugatin. And the third one is a meal for 2 people at Beni Dagim.
Oh, that's worth it.
Over there.
No, the basket with the fruit is better.
Number 8.
8. Who's got 8? Oh, here, Judy. Very, very good. Thank you very much. And I must mention that the Rabbi came especially from Netanya to speak to us. Thank you. But if anybody wants more coffee, or Rabbi Itzkevich, can we ask you to bench?
Baruch atah Adonai Azonai Sakol. Yeah,